So, Holly, thank you for joining and agreeing to come on to Talent Unboxed, which we've established for a couple of reasons, really, to help candidates when it comes to their job-seeking activity, for looking at and taking a bit of a dive into what businesses like yours generally look for when recruiting, as well as for maybe other businesses of a smaller size that can take some hints and tips from you. Is kind of the main message of what Talent Unboxed is for. So, do you want to introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, of course. I'm Holly Thallen-Steenson, Managing Director at Viridian Nutrition, which is a vitamin and supplement company based out of sunny Daventry.
Sunny Daventry, indeed. Yeah, sunny Daventry. So, I did some research into the business before having you on the podcast today, and it's kind of steeped in history from your mum starting the business, right? Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, my mum founded the business back in 1999. She previously worked within the supplement industry still, but actually before that she was a journalist. So if anybody who's ever met my mum or ever seen anything else that she's done, she's hugely inquisitive and relentless on that as well, which is wonderful. And that was really a hero's journey of how we built Viridian, is just always asking those questions and what do we want to do more of and how do we help support our communities. So we kind of founded on the 3 principles of purity, charity and environment. And as we've grown up as a company and as we've evolved, we now still kind of have those really close to our hearts, but our now 3 principles are effective, ethical and pure. And it sounds silly, but that's kind of the morals and the ethics that I've grown up with as a young girl too. So I've grown up alongside the business. My mum founded it when I was 4 years old. You kind of mentioned something a bit later on about maybe a photo or something that might come out, but you know, it's true. I've kind of grown up around the business, went off and did my own career, worked in events management for a number of years, absolutely loved it, but suddenly had that moment, like most of us do, sort of during COVID time and around that sort of time, that I thought, oh, what is it that actually I want to do? What is it that I want to do as my career or my next step? And the more I thought about it, the more my purpose and my mission came into question. And I thought, I really do genuinely want to help people. And what is the best way for me to be able to do that? And then I thought more about our family business. When I was younger, and people always say I was a 13-year-old, or, oh, when are you going to join the family business? And that really wasn't what me and my mum had talked about. My mum very much was very keen for me to go and get my own experiences in life. But the more I thought about what my true thoughts and feelings are and how can I help people, Viridian was the perfect thing for me to come back into. So
let's go back then a couple of years where you were on that career journey of trying to find out what it is you wanted to do. What career were you taking? What did you look at?
So I went to university and did a business degree with events management, and absolutely loved events. My mum always jokes that I was born with a clipboard, but it's totally my style. So it was the absolutely perfect fit for me, and I really, really enjoyed that for a number of years and got to travel and got to do loads of interesting things, meet loads of new people, and I'm a real people person. So I absolutely loved it. But working in sort of big corporate events and things, whilst it was really fun, I realised that what I genuinely wanted to do was help people through their health and to be happy. And that's kind of where I ended up coming back round to the family business, which again, if you asked me at 12, 13, I would have gone, no, I'm going to be a ballet dancer or an astronaut or something. It would have been whatever I thought then. And I think it just more says about that journey that I've been on with my mum as well, that it was never an expectation for me to join back into the family business, and there was never any sort of discussions around that a lot as a child. It was always there, and I grew up alongside Viridian as almost a little sister rather than anything else.
And I guess, for lots of businesses that have generational recruits from family getting passed down and stuff, it is an often expectation that sons carry on the dad's careers, or like in your instance, mothers and daughters. But what was the journey like when you finally decided, and you had a conversation with your mum and said, I'm going to join? What did that pathway look like? Was it a kind of instantly? Well, it wouldn't be an instantly, I guess, straight in at the top. It was more like you had to learn the ropes, or how was it?
So really over the years I'd kind of semi-learnt the ropes in certain areas, whether that be school holidays or after school. My mum was a single parent bringing me up alongside a business, so I had to get involved because after school I either did an after school club or I went to Viridian because the office was still open. So I kind of got a bit of an idea of what a workplace looked like quite early on. But it was really during that time I went for a walk around our local country park in Daventry with an old friend that I hadn't seen in, 10, 15 years. And we were walking around and I was kind of saying, oh God, I don't really know what I want to do next. I want to do something that I'm really excited by, and I wasn't too sure. And he kept really questioning me about my life. And I thought, oh God, this is a bit intense. Like, why? What's going on? And he said, well, what about Viridian? I said, well, what about Viridian? My mum's never going to retire. She's never going to want to leave. She's so passionate about the industry and what she does. There's not a chance. And I don't want to be a Prince Charles in waiting for years and years and years, just working within the business. So he said, but no, seriously, your mum's 60. She's going to want to retire at some point, or she's going to want to do something else. What would that look like? And so it suddenly hit me, like, it sounds, but there was a physical reaction of almost like being hit by a ton of bricks, and that thought of, what would happen to Viridian if I didn't step in and didn't come into Viridian? There was lots of different options on the table, but it suddenly hit me that I realised that is what I needed to do. I needed to look after my little sister and work with the family. And it's strange because I obviously say about my mum being so passionate and she would never retire because that's always what she had said. But in that same week, she was working with Cranfield University on a business growth programme. And then because she just turned 60, which is incredibly young, it's not anything to suddenly start thinking about retirement all the time. But they were saying to her, what's your exit strategy? What's your legacy? What do you want to leave behind when you move on to your next project or want to go do something else? And it was in that exact same week that she was having those discussions. So during COVID, we were both living in the same house. She had a bedroom office and I had a bedroom office. So I knocked on her bedroom office door and said, listen, I don't know how to start this conversation with you, but I would actually like to see what I could do with Viridian and what would that look like, and how could we make this work, or is that even possible? Am I the right fit for the business? Because those are genuine questions that I think you've got to ask yourself. Am I the right fit the other way around? And she actually just said, oh my God, I'm so relieved. I've been having this as a thought and didn't know how to approach you, didn't know if you'd be interested in all of these different areas. And the rest is history.
It sounds a bit like fate was
it really
put in the mix there.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
But we were very cautious, obviously, with me joining that. I haven't been a managing director before anywhere else. And so how would the rest of the team take that on? How would our customers take that on? Our suppliers, our manufacturing sites that we work with. And we're very, very lucky that we took, and I say lucky, it's not luck at all. We took it incredibly seriously. We joined a group called Family Business UK, who helps people go through those transitions from now generation to the next generation. And they've worked with businesses that are like 12, 13 generations. So ours is a relatively easier sort of way to work through. But what we realise is that we've got to make sure that we consult everybody. And that's everybody internally at Viridian, but also our customers and the suppliers and the partners that we've worked with for the past 20 odd years, so that it's not a shock to them, but also they can meet me as a proper person rather than the kid that they might remember that met
from the ad campaigns back in the early 2000s. Right? So let's touch on that a little bit more. You guys worked out a plan, you and your mum worked out the plan, and then you said that was in the middle of COVID. So when coming out of COVID and then back into the office or into the workplace, how did the team respond?
It was actually so positive. I was hugely relieved because my worry was, there's some people that I've known for 20 odd years, really, since I was a kid. What would their perception be of it? How would they feel? But they were actually also relieved because there's so many people companies within our industry that have sold out to massive corporations, which might be the right journey for them. But that was the nervousness of people who've come to work for a family-owned, family-run business. And really they've known, working with my mum for the past 20 years, that if they were to go to a larger, sort of more corporate format, what that would look like for them and their roles. And same for our customers too. They wanted to know that they were going to continue to be supported in the way that we have done for the past like I say, 20 years.
And I'm guessing over the period of time that your mum run the business, that she would have been offered those opportunities by conglomerates that tried to come in and, you know, get more market share by acquiring you. Is that?
Oh yeah, that does happen.
Right?
Yeah, but it's never, you know, it's a passion project, the passion business for us. It's, you know, we didn't get into vitamins by chance. It's because we truly want to help people, and we know it's tough to be really happy if you're not feeling healthy, and so really that's the main driver for us.
It's hard. Say that. So it's tough to be happy unless you're feeling healthy.
You know, we know what it's like through personal experience, but also even if you just have something, a cold, a flu or something, it's very difficult to drive and push through that. So if we genuinely care about people's happiness and their well-being, we need to think about their health. Okay.
So second generation MD then has navigating, you know, what is considered quite a hard transition when you're taken over from the founder. Where are we at now in that part of that journey? How long is it? So if it happened, you started the process in COVID, what are we, 3 or 4 years in?
Yeah, we're a little while in now. So our original plan was sort of a 5-year structure where I would come in as management support, and that was completely transparent to everybody at Viridian and anybody else external too. Coming in as management support, which gave me a varied enough job title that it means I could go and work amongst all the different departments at Viridian, and go out and meet customers, and then transitioning over to managing director when Cheryl was ready to step down. And again, I say it started off as a 5-year plan, and within 2 years it became like 3 years, and it moved quite quickly. So I've actually now been managing director there at Viridian now for 2 years. Which has flown by, absolutely.
So one of the things I want to touch on, because I think the listeners can really probably understand this, is you're quite open about imposter syndrome. I think that's what, when we researched a little bit into you and how you've been on this journey, were there times where you had to question, actually, have I done the right thing? Have I got the skills in place? I think it also mentioned that you know you're big on mentorship, leadership development. Obviously, we met at a peer-to-peer group. So tell me about that part of you where you're overcoming that.
I mean, hugely. I always make the joke about it that my mum, you know, big shoes to fill. She's a real spearhead in the industry. You know, she's won industry awards for how important she is. You know, absolutely incredible. She's got massive shoes that I've got to fill, but she only is size 4s. But they feel huge when you try to step into them, right? But it's, you know, it has been a huge journey. And I would be foolish to think that I wouldn't question myself in that way. But I think also entrepreneurs and people who work within business typically will question themselves. But what I love is that I love not being the smartest person in the room. Surrounding myself with people who are hugely talented and incredible, you know, that we can utilise. And that's what Viridian is full of incredibly talented, curious, caring people. And that's, you know, really what I see my job is curating the right people for Viridian, and then also making sure that they have everything that they need in order to succeed. I'm basically a facilitator of that, and that is my role.
I think it's a really great way of putting it, because I've visited site and I've seen you in your environment, and I've seen the way that people respond to you and the feel. And, you know, we visit in our job hundreds of businesses every year, people that we supply or people that we don't supply or we're trying to supply. And there are certain times when we do that we go into a business that can really feel that culture and team, and, you know, it's not just slogans on the wall. And I think that was something that I personally really got from visiting Viridian. So tell us how you make sure on that transition from you kind of taking over that is maintained, and that is, you know, because that feels to me that's something that you're really passionate about.
Yeah, I think that's really what I bring to the business hugely, is that we say that Viridian has a code of ethics and morals, and we really are purpose driven, and so am I. And I think that's it. Growing up alongside Viridian, I joke that she's my little sister, 4 years younger than me, but we were brought up on that same ethics, morals and code of practice. you know, that we want to support our local communities. We want to support not only our team members, but their friends, their families, and their communities. And it's the same with our independent stores that we stock. So they're up and down the UK and Ireland. They all serve such a wonderful purpose within their local community, not only supporting with the health, but it's also the economics, and they're just what they're able to contribute back is just absolutely incredible. And I'm so passionate and privileged to be a part of that. And so for me, as long as that is how we hold ourselves and that's how we want to conduct the way that Viridian runs, then we're in a good place. So as long as we have that, like I'm steering that ship in sense, and we've got the right crew on board, then that's really how we're going to keep going as a business. Yeah.
So let's talk about how you take that mentality and then turn it into your recruitment strategy. So how does that work? You know, how do you encourage the people that you have in the business to recruit with that same mentality? Is there a structure to it, or you know, talk about that?
I think over the years, obviously it changes, because when it was just my mum running the business, needing people, we had family. My auntie was helping doing customer service. My uncle built all the racking in our first warehouse. You know, at the end of the day, when you're growing a business, you do have to kind of beg, steal, borrow. You utilise the talent that you've got around you, which typically will be family and friends.
100%.
And then as we've sort of grown, you're right, you have to have some of those processes in place to make sure that you're getting in the right people to be able to help sort of build in that culture and it's not opposing. So, you know, I talked about, you know, our sort of code of conduct of being effective, ethical, pure. We also have our internal one, which is being curious, caring, celebratory and championing, which I love that last one too. But we kind of employ based on those sort of 4 areas. Obviously it's around skill set, but really it's primarily around the culture and the aptitude and the willingness. We are a curious bunch of people. We ask a lot of questions. We don't always know all the right answers, but we ask a lot of questions and really drilling into those, and also championing things that you truly believe in, whether that be, you know, junk within supplements or it be anything else. Well, we really encourage that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because there is equally a passion of mine. It's looking at these different alternatives, and when you know, there's a big drive at the minute. You've got AI driving so many different business functions, and then in your world, in kind of supplements, and you know, you've had all of these new advancements in medication. You've got the fat loss jabs like the Ozempics, and then you've also got this new thing that I keep seeing everywhere is about peptides, and you know, are you seeing as faster industry change when you're talking, and how are you making sure you're staying on top of that? How does that work in the space?
Yeah, there are quite a lot of industry changes, and you know, it used to be that you would go over to the US or somewhere like that, you'd see out what new ingredients are coming, what new areas, but really now it is more, luckily, customer focused, right?
Okay.
What we're looking at is people stress, mood, sleep, unfortunately is becoming more and more prevalent. So hence why you might see things like magnesium becoming really popular, things that can help support with that sort of busy, hectic lifestyle that a lot of us lead now. And you know, things like our westernized diets of, you know, we always know a takeaway isn't the worst thing in the world, but if that is what we're consuming a lot of, we're not getting enough of our healthy leafy greens, our veg and other areas, and our especially oily fish. If we're not getting those, so supplementation can help support that sort of lifestyle and that balanced diet. But it's really, we are seeing those sort of things are getting quicker and quicker. And, you know, the GLP-1 sort of thing that's going on at the moment, you know, it's that sort of people looking for that one solution that cures all, but really that's not what it's going to look after your overall optimal health.
So do you think that's where we're seeing it head though, is that, you know, like most things now, everyone wants instant gratification, or things want to take shortcuts. You know, in our world, AI is being seen as a bit of a shortcut. It's creating capacity for, you know, people to do other tasks, so that where AI is taking away some of that heavy lifting. You know, is that what you think around the jabs or these quick fix scenarios, is that people are wanting that shortcut, do you think?
I don't think that's what GLP-1 was created for. It wasn't. It was there to help people who are pre-diabetic and other people that, you know, need that as a medication. There are obviously some areas as well that now people are able to get it through their pharmacist, through the things. But to be honest, I just want to make sure that they're fully supported. One, that they've got awareness of what that jab or, you know, what that pill might actually do to their body in the long run, making sure they have all of the information. I think that's the huge important thing for me, is around that transparency and that ease of information. Dr. Google, Dr. ChatGPT, it's all well and good. It's good, the fact that we get more information, but it's then up to the person then trying to decipher that information and really figure out what that means. So that's where that human level will never miss out, whether that be with your GP, through a nutritionist, through somebody at a health food store. That one-to-one connection where you can actually say, here's all the information that I've looked at online. It's a terrifying place online, because if I Google one thing, it will tell me one thing. If I Google exactly the same thing the next day, it could mean something else. So how can I actually decipher all of this? And this is where those healthcare practitioners come and really fit in. And, you know, independent health food stores, I always sing the praises of, because they're absolutely fantastic. It's where you can get the right advice for the right reason. And that doesn't mean they always recommend you a particular product. It might be just be a sit down and a bit of a conversation around, right, have you gone on a walk recently? Have you gone out and, you know, made some new friends in this particular area? Have you gone to a yoga class? And sometimes that can actually help you with your stress, mood, anxiety, more than a capsule can help, or more than this sort of medication can. But again, obviously, the healthcare practitioner, definitely the way to go. But really taking that advice from a one-on-one person, is hugely important.
Okay, great. So, recruitment then,
Yes.
in your space. So, obviously, you've got health advisors, nutritionalists, manufacturing, logistics, some of which are kind of not really considered, you know, your Gucci roles or, you know, particularly glamorous. How do you make sure that you're getting hold, when you're recruiting and you keep getting talent in, that you're keeping them and growing them and nurturing them against the stuff that you've talked about with your values?
I think education is hugely important to us. I think even when somebody joins, I mean, they might have come in as a, you know, university degree, nutritionist, or they might have come in and this is their first job ever. But for us, continuing education and supporting them in what they would like with that journey is incredibly important. But it's also building up that supportive culture. That's it within our business. We have also got things like, benefits of, obviously, you get free supplements every month, bike to work
That's
scheme,
great.
fruit and veg is incredibly important. We have that delivered once a week into the office. But it's those sort of things that help long term actually foster in that the fact that we do care and we are there to support all the way through. But I think education going forward is always incredibly important, and like I say, we typically employ people who are incredibly curious and want to learn more and want to know what are the next new things coming through, whether that be AI, another international expansion project, or what can we do, how can we run what we do currently better and smarter and more efficiently.
So one of the things I remember from meeting you when I came out to visit was you took the stance of paying London living wage as an entry level, right? Which...
Yes.
Not many people around here, being, you know, Daventry is market town on the outskirts of Northamptonshire. What was the motivation factor around that decision? Because obviously there's a cost and commercial impact on that, right? So what made you decide to do that?
It's the right thing to do. In our opinion, in our area, we want to ensure that the people that we bring in a team, as a bare minimum, are getting what they need for their livelihoods. And that's the decision between, you know, which meal can I get in what loaf of bread. We want them to be able to actually have that sort of freedom to be able to have those choices, but also not having to worry about that whilst they're at work. So we thought it was incredibly important. We looked at what the minimum wage was. We looked at what the living wage was. And then when we did have the living wage for a long while, and then when we were able to, we moved up to that London living wage, and I can't see us going back. It's incredibly important to us to make sure that all of our teams have that support.
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic thing. And I think that, you know, where commercially viable, the more businesses that can do that will undoubtedly attract more talent, right? Because ultimately, you could put all the bells and whistles in terms of engagement, activity and stuff like that, but what generally drives decision making around employment is how much cash am I going to get in my pocket at the end of the month or at the end of the week or whatever. So to take that leap, I think is really admirable of a business like yours.
For us, it's definitely the pay and the base level and making sure that's going. but it's also that purpose. We say, you might pick the warehouse team, for example. You might say, oh goodness, how do they fit in with the overall thing? They're a hugely important part of that. Every single bottle that leaves their hands is helping somebody to better health and better happiness. So that mission, that purpose, we're not just sending out, a particular item. It is something that is actually going to, when it gets to that end user, help support them and really, get them to that next level.
Okay.
So if we can do that, it's incredibly important.
No, it's great. I love it. So let's talk into, what we're seeing now in the younger generation, because I think with millennials and kind of Gen Z, there's definitely a shift that we're seeing in the market, that they're more focused on health. They're more, it's not necessarily about going out and partying all the time. So for people of that generation that are health conscious, if they wanted to get into a business like Viridian, what would they need to do?
Oh, to come and work with us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. Be relentless. Just relentless in life. Curious. Not just taking what the first thing is and going, oh, okay. Question things. And then I would also say ambitious. No, what is it? What do I actually know? Not ambitious. What am I saying? What's Cheryl's favourite thing? She is naively optimistic.
Okay.
And that makes her absolutely relentless, and that's what drove her to drive Viridian. And I absolutely love that, and I think it's true. We're not looking for people all the time that have particular skill sets and things like this, because those are things that we would love to help support, nourish within people. But for us, it is around that the culture side hugely. Yeah.
Okay, and you can feel that when you visit. Okay, so you've also spoken about international expansion. Where are you at on that journey, and what's the biggest challenge in taking a UK brand globally?
Goodness, yeah. Well, we're in about 30 countries now, and looking for sort of different areas that we can go into with that. I'd say, goodness, the biggest challenge has to be regulatory things and different things that are going on with the government and stuff like that. But, it's also making sure that we've got the right partnerships. I think that is truly important to us. And that's from everything from UK and Ireland, but all the way through to international. We've been working with some of these international distributors again for 20 years. And for us, it is about building that partnership. We're a family business, so it is that connection that we're looking for. It's the same with some of our manufacturing sites that we work with. They are almost the extended family. And so for us, it's making sure that we build that relationship going forward. Okay,
great. So, moving on to the future, what does the next chapter of Viridian look like under your leadership? Have you got aspirations to want to take it somewhere it hasn't been before, or is it a kind of watch this space, let's see how the market shifts, and is there any thought around that, any strategy?
Oh God, lots of strategy, lots of thoughts. I think for me it's around, again, keeping that transparency. What do the end users what are they looking for? If me, Joe Bloggs on the street, I'm taking my supplements, I want to know that what I've got within my product is not only what's written on the label, but it's something that I can understand and I can get support in any time of day that I need to. And the more we can do to support our customers, the better. And really that is our key driver for everything that we do. And that's our key strategy. Granted, that also means international, digital, supporting more of, again, those bricks and mortar stores in the UK, those independent health stores, how we can be able to do that. But really the key driver, again, is those people that are actually taking the supplements. What can we do to help support them better?
Okay. And then what piece of advice, when you think about the journey you've been on, what is there a piece of advice, if you was to go back in time, that you would have given your younger self?
You've got this. It sounds silly, but it is. It's true. You've got this. And don't be afraid to ask the question. When I was a bit younger, sometimes I would be a bit nervous to ask and be like, am I just a bit young, and do I just not quite get it? It is absolutely fine to not get it. At the end of the day, asking that question, you're going to get much more information than if you try and think, I'll Google that acronym later, or I'll Google that later, or this. Ask in the room, because suddenly you'll get a richness of other information there. And surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you. You know, that has been the main thing that's helped drive me. Not only do they inspire me, but again, I get those absolutely wonderful bits of information that I go, I never thought of it that way. Or, that is what I was thinking. Okay, that's great. I feel more confident to go forward with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the networking groups, the mentoring, peer-to-peer, Family Business UK, Buy Women Build, all of these amazing things that I've joined and associations that I've become a part of, is all, again, to learn more information.
How do you find time for it all, though?
Honestly, I think my husband asked the same question. I'm like, I don't know. But I think it's about what you prioritise. And for me, I am a very people person. It's finding what energises you. Me being sat in my whole team knows this, me being sat on a spreadsheet for hours upon hours of end doesn't energise me. I will do it. It's a job that needs to be done. And I will make sure it's all, it's correct and everything. But me being out, talking to our customers, coming to do things like this, going to those networking groups, that is what energised me. So that suddenly doesn't feel like it's time at all. Whereas I know other people in my team, what energises them is that spreadsheet. So I'm like, you crack on with that spreadsheet. You make it perfect. And they want it at that, it's got to be 99.9% perfect, and they'll send that across. And they'll be incredibly proud of what they've achieved. And I look at it and go, that's fantastic. I've now got all of that information. And again, that helps me go out and do more conversations and go see people. Mm-hmm. So I think it is that what energises you, what gets you up in the morning.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, last question is, what if for businesses that they're seeing that maybe are kind of on a bit of a journey, and they're seeing or witnessing a bit of a tougher cycle of recruitment, and they're struggling to find talent and be on the similar, but they know they've got a growth plan. Mm-hmm. In your experience on how you've done it at Viridian, what would be the advice to businesses that know they need to hire talent? They want, you've touched on getting people that are brighter than you, or more experienced than you, or cleverer than you, but if they're seeing a revolving door, which you guys don't see, is there any advice you could give for businesses out there?
Recruit slow. Definitely making sure you're finding the right fit. Make sure you've got an absolute clarity of what sort of person you are looking for, not just skill set, and not just, they've got a degree or they've got this level of education. What sort of person are you looking for? What characteristics? Are they energised by people, or do they really love the detail? And it's those sort of things that you get that idea for very quickly when somebody comes into the room. And it's, utilising talent like yourselves that can help support you in that journey too, if you're not too sure, or you don't have that time to really look at recruitment in the depth that it needs in order to get done. And then for me as well, I'd say, there was one other one that I had just on the tip of my tongue. It's always the way.
Well, it's funny that you were saying, I'll interlude while you're trying to remember.
Mulling. There
there are lots of businesses that are in a similar position to you that try to do it themselves, and when there's someone as busy as you, time is the biggest factor, right? Yes, there's a commercial impact to using recruitment businesses. We're a commercial business, we have to charge for it. However, what I often say, and what my team are big advocates of, is that recruitment is 100% of our day, and it will be 1% of yours. So, I wouldn't have a clue how to manufacture, ship and distribute a supplement. So I wouldn't attempt it. I would want to lean on someone like yourself to be able to help me achieve that, right? So do you think that is there any advice for businesses that are perhaps toying with the idea of using recruiters that, from your experience, you think, let's give that a go. This is what you could achieve from it by partnering with the right people. Is there any words of wisdom that you could pass on?
I think if you're unsure, again, give it a go. This is it. My whole thing that I've pretty much said over the entire time is find people that are smarter than you in these areas and utilise them. Find out their wonderful nuggets of knowledge and their skills. And if it's not the right fit for you, then that's where you have that thought process. But I
But
think
don't be put off by it.
I think don't be
If
put
it,
off.
if
Exactly.
it doesn't work the first time,
Just because it's something new and different, that's it. Give
Yeah.
it a go, definitely. And I think my only other thing on the whole of recruitment is if something tells you maybe, that means it's a no. So for those, when you're actually sat in that room and you're doing the recruiting side, if there's any part of you that makes you think, I'm just not too sure, but I know we need somebody here and we need them now and we need them tomorrow and things, again, it's recruiting slow within that, and that's where it's partnering with somebody else that can help you understand actually why are you thinking that? What are those questions that help you prior, rather than just going, oh, gut feel there, yeah, oh yeah, let's just get them in and have them got there tomorrow because we have this piece of work that needs doing. Somebody that actually can help you curate that list to really understand it, and that tighter brief that typically we, as entrepreneurs, we don't kind of have all the time.
No, well, this is true, isn't it? We know the idea, you know, but do we know what that looks like? And I think going back to the earlier point, that's where I'm using more AI, you know, and I'm putting into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. I'm saying, this is what I want to do. Give me an overview, do some research, you know, and then, you're getting access to all of this information really quickly, like you touched on. And then it gives you a little bit more of an educated opinion on where the next bit to go is, right? So, and I think we can't speak to every business all the time about, for those that are wanting to try it, you know, there's tons of businesses that don't use recruiters. But what I do really wish would be that businesses, you know, where they're posting an advert, waiting for applicants, they're going through them and then struggling to find the right people, and then, you know, so they do it again, and just, it's that old saying, right? If you always get what you always got, if you always did what you always done, or something like that, whatever the saying is. There are other ways. I think things are moving forward now, and it is a much simpler process to engage with businesses like us to use recruitment.
Definitely so.
But listen, I'm really grateful for you coming on board and coming to hear all about Viridian and what you guys are achieving. You're doing phenomenal work there.
Oh God, thank you.
What one piece of advice then that you would give either a candidate looking for work or a business owner that is wanting to grow? What would be the golden nugget leaving bit? I know you said about trying new things and recruiting, you know, cleverer people, but is there anything else that you think is important that people should hear?
I think it goes back to that, be absolutely relentless and curious. That is what's going to get you there. And it's the same whether or not you're looking for a new job, looking for your next career, you know, being relentless and curious. If there's a genuine business that you believe that you want to work with, contact them out the blue. Go through your recruiter. Go through, you know, try every single angle. If that is the right company fit for you, then that's it. Be absolutely relentless in that. And it's the same if you're a growing business. Question everything. Actually, have you thought of every angle? Is there other opportunities there? And I think that's what's kept us going, is that we are a curious bunch of people. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you again for coming on to Talent Unboxed, and we look forward to having you back in the future.
Well, thanks for having me.
Cool.